Hey, good evening, everyone. This is the Professor of Value, Dr. Kevin Storr. And hey, the new semester has begun. Can you believe it? Summer is over. Today is Wednesday. It's the 29th of October. And it is our third day of the new semester. Third day of the new semester. So today I was lecturing in physics, and this is really the first day of lectures because the first day is used for our syllabi and such. And we were talking about, at least I was discussing with the students, some of the introductory topics that we deal with physics. Hey, John, how are you doing? Thanks for joining in. So I know many of you will get a chance to watch this later on. Angie, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for being a part. In fact, I see the wave thing. I'm going to try the wave. Oh, there we go. I just did the wave. Bill Gardner, hey, thank you for joining in. I guess I should probably just give it a few more minutes while others are joining in. So, as I was telling everyone, this is the first week back for the semester. Today is the third lecture day. And, well, actually, my second lecture day because I only lecture on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's going to be research day. So, I decided to take some time and just talk with you all a little bit about rulers of the kingdom. Rulers of the kingdom. And I thought about this while I was lecturing today. And today we were doing the chapter 1 of physics. Chapter 1 of physics is really a foundational part. We don't really talk about physics. We talk about the scientific method. We talk about the fundamental units. Hi, Dr. Johnson. We talk about the fundamental units which are used in physics, and we also talk about measurements. And one of the things that we mention about measurements is that in science, when we measure, that we have these 7 fundamental units that we use in physics. And one of them is length, the other is time, we have mass, we have temperature, luminous intensity, amount of a substance, etc. And Ricky, hey, nice to see you. And the thing that really kind of caught my attention while I was speaking to the class, we were talking about length. And that in order to measure length, our unit that we use in the metric system is the meter. And thank you very much, Bill. And some of the older units that we've used, the British units, hey, Mike, how are you doing, would be inches and feet. Now, I brought a ruler in here. Right? This is a meter stick. Hi, how are you doing, Dr. Johnson? This is a meter stick. This meter stick is 3.28 feet long. Here is another ruler. This one's just 1 foot. So if I were to put this length to length, I would end up at 3.28. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining in. So in dealing with rulers of the kingdom, what we were telling the students today is the means by which we use to establish measurement standards. So, for example, that you've heard the term a cubit. So a cubit that's used in the Bible, that a cubit was basically the length of a person's arm from the elbow here to the finger. That was a cubit. And that cubit could vary depending on who the king was at the time. But basically you have a cubit. Now, one of the issues is that if there is no standard for measuring, say, 1 foot or 12 inches, that if I am cutting material, in one case, someone could end up getting maybe 13 inches of material, someone can get 12. But you need to have a standard, or we use a ruler in order to define that, and that standard must be the same everywhere. Now, going from the cubit, another way of measuring length is the standard of a meter, and earlier, they had a bar made of iridium. So iridium is a metal, and they had these 2 marks on the iridium bar, and that defined the length of 1 meter. From there, we went even much more specific about it, whereby we use a laser. Now, lasers is really an acronym, right? So some of you may already know this. When you use the word laser, and I'm calling it a word, it's not a word, it's really an acronym. Just like NBA is an acronym, the National Basketball Association. So laser is an acronym, and it means light amplification by the spontaneous emission of radiation. Yeah, that's it. So now when you're on Jeopardy, you can now answer that question. Double Jeopardy, you just won yourself $2,000. Light amplification by the spontaneous emission of radiation. Well, with laser, that light is traveling at 186,000 miles per second. Could you imagine that? 186,000 miles per second. That's how fast light travels in a vacuum and basically in air. Every second, it's going to move 186,000 miles. And in case you end up on Jeopardy, if you are traveling at the speed of light and you were to go from one end of our Milky Way galaxy to another, it will take you 100,000 light years. That's how big our Milky Way galaxy is. If you are traveling at 186,000 miles every second, it would take you 100,000 years to move across the Milky Way galaxy. But hey, that's neither hither nor thither. So the way how we define the meter is the distance that light travels in 299,792,458 hundredths of a second. That's kind of crazy, I know. That's basically how we define light. Is that a meter is that how the distance that light travels in that short time frame. Well, the whole idea is that you must have a standard for measuring length. So the standard that we use is going to be the ruler. Now, I want you to think about the kingdom. That in the kingdom we have a king, and the king is called a what? A ruler. The king is called a ruler. Why is the king called a ruler? Because the ruler is the standard of measurement. The king is the ruler himself. Now, think about now where you are in life, whether as a profession. Are you a ruler? You should be a ruler in your area. Meaning then that if your area is one, say maybe of law, why not become the ruler in law? Why not become a person who can set a standard in law? That when it comes to tort law, maybe when it comes to a law that deals with inventions and so forth, why just be the person who's just functioning in it? Why not be the person who sets precedent in it? Why not be the person who others look up to as a standard? Many times we like being the person who is actually measuring ourselves against someone else rather than being the person against things are actually measured. When you become the thing against something is measured, you become the standard. You become the ruler. The king is the ruler. What the king says is going to be law. What the king settles everything. First, settles everything. Based on what he says, that becomes a standard, that becomes the law. Now, here I have something else for measuring length, and this is called a vernier caliper. A vernier caliper. Vernier is spelled V-E-R-N-I-E-R, in case you want to look it up on the Googly. This vernier caliper allows me to make measurements of really, really smaller objects. So, for example, if I wanted to measure how thick this piece of paper is right here, well, let me use something else. Here's a little mouse pad. If I wanted to measure the thickness of this mouse pad, I would use this vernier caliper, and I would just simply roll this and squeeze it together here. And now I can get the thickness of this. Now, if I wanted to attempt to use this ruler to measure the thickness of it, it becomes a whole lot more challenging to do so. This is a ruler. It's a different type of ruler. It's called a vernier caliper. Now, I have something that's even much more accurate than this, something that's called a micrometer. And with the micrometer, I can measure things of even smaller thicknesses. In all cases, these will still work. This is a ruler, that's a ruler, that's a ruler. But notice that this vernier caliper, this thing rules for measuring things which are very, very thin. I can get more accurate measurements of thin objects than I can with this. Here I have a little piece of paper here, and if I wanted to get the thickness of this, I try to put the ruler up against here, and man, it becomes a challenge. But when I go to my vernier caliper, man, this thing, it rules the day. It is incredible. Not only does my vernier caliper works that way, but how about this water bottle? If I want to get the dimensions of this water bottle, the vernier caliper is designed in such a way where when I put this in here and I open it up, that the moment let me get this in here, that hits in there like that, then I can get the measurement of the inner part of this bottle much easily than trying to use this ruler here to do this. What am I showing you? I am showing you that there are different types of rulers in life. That this vernier caliper, this rules when things are very, very thin, or when I have to get inner diameter. This particular rule, or this meter stick rule, when I have to measure something of a much more larger length, right? The vernier caliper, this can't measure anything, say, beyond about roughly 6 inches. Beyond 6 inches, this ruler will not work. Instead, I need this. Well, when we think about God as the ruler of the kingdom, He is the ruler of all standards, and He's the ruler of all lengths. In fact, when we see a term in the Bible called King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Well, if the king is the ruler, that means he is the ruler of all rulers. Therefore, that if we were to set a human standard about things, the ruler of all rulers can actually come and he can say, you know what, I think that standard that you have set, you put a lot of good thought into it, but I'm going to override that. Why? Because I am the ruler of all rulers. I am the King of Kings. We are rulers within our domain, within our sphere of influence. What are you ruling? Some of us will rule in education. Some of us rule in physics. Some of us are going to rule in law. Shelton Evans, how are you doing? There's a young king there. He's going to be ruling in physics. That brother there's working on a PhD in physics. Some of us will rule in the areas of children education. I see Ricardo Miller. I know that he works with the kids and teaching them about the kingdom. Some people will rule in the area of business. Some are going to rule in terms of being a pilot. Wherever you are the ruler. Wherever you are, you should become the standard. You should become the standard so that that sphere in which you function, they should name that sphere you. Right? It's like when Tiger Woods was at the height of his game. All we had to say was golf. The moment we said golf, you said Tiger Woods. Why? Because he ruled inside that sphere so much that we didn't even have to say his name. We just had to say golf and Tiger's name popped up. There was a time where Michael Jordan ruled on the basketball court. All we had to say was basketball, and everyone said, yes, Michael Jordan. Why? It's because he ruled within his sphere. What are you willing to do in order to be a ruler within your sphere? Hey, you can allow somebody else to be the ruler, or you can decide to set the standard. Set the standard about something. Be more than you are right now. Take a chance and go beyond where you currently are in life. Junior scientist, nice to see you, man. Take a chance and go beyond where you are in life. Think about it. 10 years ago, where were you in comparison to where you are right now? Where were you? How much value did you have in your area back then in comparison to now? Are you like Al Bundy? Do you know Al Bundy? I'll tell you about Al Bundy. When I was younger, I used to love to watch this show called Married with Children. And in it was this character named Al Bundy. And Al Bundy had this great accomplishment in life. Al Bundy played football. And Al Bundy scored 4 touchdowns in one game for Polk High. 4 touchdowns in one game for Polk High. And Al Bundy was like in his late 40s. And Al always talked about how he scored 4 touchdowns in one game for Polk High. Now, when he scored those 4 touchdowns in that one game for Polk High, the crowd was going crazy. They were ecstatic. He scored the first touchdown. Go, Al, go. I can imagine the second touchdown. Al breaks free, and Al is running for pay dirt, and the crowd is cheering, go, 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 and Al scores 2 touchdowns. But my God, could this be happening again? Could it be happening late in the third? Here is Al. He's rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Touchdown! Wow! 3 touchdowns in one game for Polk High. It has never been seen. 5 minutes left to go. 3rd down and 4. Al gets the ball. Al goes towards pay dirt once again. He sees daylight. My God! Touchdown! 4 touchdowns. One game. Polk High. Crowd goes crazy. The next day, Al is the man. They're writing about him in the school newspaper. Heck, they even did a little blurb with him on the news that morning. Al Bundy rumbled 4 touchdowns, one game. 2 days later, folks are still slapping him. Al, great job, man, 4 touchdowns. Al graduated from high school. And graduation night, they said, hey, do you remember when Al ran for 4 touchdowns? one game for Polk High. 10-year anniversary. Al comes back. Ow, dude, 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. 20th anniversary. Al, 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. 30th anniversary. Dude, I don't want you to think we forgot. 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. You see, Al ruled the football field that one night when he scored 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. But Al did not increase his sphere of influence. His sphere was only as large as what? 4 touchdowns, one game for Polk High. And now 10 years have passed, 20 years have passed, and Al's influence has not increased. Because if it had, folks will not, when they see Al, say, hey, 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. They're like, Al, man, you start the greatest business in this particular area. I heard that you're killing it. But no, Al, 4 touchdowns, one game, Polk High. Are you still telling the same story of your great accomplishments 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Why? It's because you refuse to rule. You refuse to rule. If you don't begin to increase your sphere of influence, what will happen is that we will still tell the same stories about you. Look, being a ruler in the kingdom means that you are a king. You are a king within your designated area. Look at your area. Expand your area. Grow your area. Why? Because you are the ruler. You may not rule with this. You may rule as a vernier caliper. Either way, you are a person that's ruling. Take a chance in life. Become more than you are right now. See more than you have ever seen before. I want you to always remember that when you become what you've learned, you'll never have to memorize it again. Also, I want you to remember that the closest thing you have to being omniscient is your ability to learn. So, why not take a chance and learn more and think your way to the top? Hey, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you giving me some of your time, and I hope that this has been helpful to you. Share it with a friend. Hey, share it on your Facebook page. Tell them to have a listen. It's the Professor of Value, Kevin Storr. And Lynn, thank you for joining in. You're going to have to catch the replay. Just finished. And remember, let's think our way to the top. I'll see you sometime tomorrow.